The climate rate for EB-1 application. This is the topic for today's presentation. I'm Sam Shihab with the law firm of Shihab Burke, and with me,
Brian Burke from that very same place. It's right up above your head on the screen there, Sam. Everybody can see it. Oh, don't touch it, Sam. You'll pop it.
Right here.
All right. It's Monday. It's 6 o'clock. It's our time to talk to everybody about an immigration issue. We want to talk about it. Apparently, it's EB-1 for the week, and we're also going to take everybody's questions.
Yes, but government shutdown didn't happen.
Yeah. So this is our tentative presentation topic. It could have been, oh boy, government shutdown. What are we going to do? No government shutdown now. The ball has been kicked down the road for 45 days.
Yeah.
Sam, what do you think is going to happen in about 45 days?
Government shutdown.
I think there's a reasonable chance of that as well.
Yeah, I mean the fight is. I mean it's all about politics. I mean we can spend the next hour talking about some people pulling the fire alarm for Congress not to vote. Other people wants to go after other people and take them out of their leadership position.
Oh,
people are angry.
And other people want to get rid of the guy who wants to get rid of the leader.
Yeah.
It's still a developing political situation. And
there's so much more distraction than the topic of resolving the government budget.
Side note, Sam, what's the odds of immigration reform getting through anytime?
Oh my God, it's such a low chance right now, it's impossible.
Yeah.
But we're switching gear to this week because the USCIS issued an updated guidelines, a clarification guidelines on EB-1, and with focus on STEM, trying to kind of give more information to people who are trying to apply to understand exactly what they need to do to have a successful EB-1 application. The Biden administration has always pushed for an EB-1 in the STEM for people with the proper background, and the USCIS guidelines has been updated to encourage that. And we have a small presentation for you to kind of go over it, discuss it a little bit for you, kind of, refresh your mind and see maybe you qualify, and this maybe you're out from the long backlog for India or any other country, China or other countries. Without further delay, Brian, you put together a nice little presentation for us today. Why don't you start with the background?
Yeah, classic Brian stuff. Brian cannot resist a background, so here it is. How did we get here? So Visa Bulletin, been backlogged, been moving back and forth all over the place for the last couple years, and maybe we're kind of getting back towards normalcy. And normalcy is not good for the person who is stuck in a long Visa Bulletin backlog. When it comes to movement, the Department of State has given us some optimism, saying date advancements reflect an intention to keep visa issuance within quarter limits in accordance with INA sections, yada, 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 with potential date advancements throughout the fiscal year. Now, you, of course, Sam, said, you don't see much opportunity for advancement. And USCIS would agree with you, because in an FAQ recently, I think about the 15th of September, USCIS said for some categories, including the EB2 and EB3 for non-citizens chargeable to India, the agencies already have sufficient applications on hand to use up all the available visas for fiscal year 2024 and several fiscal years in the future. So that would point to an inability for EB2 to EB3 and EB3 to move much at all. Now, we have
India.
Yeah, for India. And honestly, I mean, look at the backlog for China. It's going to be not as bad, but it's still going to be significant. And it kind of, the data kind of bears out what USCIS and Department of State have said. Put this chart up here showing, as of June 2023, they released this data pretty recently, where the how many pending I-140s there are on a per country basis. India, EB2, 426,465. EB2 I-140s waiting for a priority date. EB3, 133,000. And then there's EB1 for India, Sam. A mere 10,000 people in the backlog there.
And we wanted to pause, I think, here for a moment, because for those who know basic math,
I'm among them.
The relationship between just by way of example, between India and China in the EB2 is a ratio of 1 to 10.
Yeah, so
Right?
that's
You got 40,000 China, you got 400,000 India.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you look at the relationship between China and India, number of applications is a 2 to 1.
That's in the EB1 category, right?
And it's an EB1 category.
So about 5,000 for China.
So for every
10,000.
application from China, there are 2 applications for India,
Yeah.
which is a significant drop from the 1 to 10 ratio in the EB2.
Certainly.
Why are we pausing here for a second? We're pausing here for a second to highlight that perhaps that there is some of that 426,000 application intellectually may belong to the EB1. By virtue, just looking at the numbers, there's no way there is 10 to 1 ratio in EB2 and only 2 to 1 ratio in EB1.
You know, Sam, I think about what the EB1 is. It's the cream of the crop at the top of any industry, right? And I just think, maybe it should be more like 10%, 5 to 10% of that 426,000 number, which would probably align, put it
and
closer
they're
to reality.
consistent.
Yeah.
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 So and also, I mean, China, they do an amazing job in producing top talent in the world. So does India. But if you look here in the U.S., in terms of the top players in many corporations, you see more people from India than you see from China.
Totally agree, yeah.
Right now, I mean, that's how I see it, but I have not done a statistic. This is an unscientific statistic. So the bottom line is, folks, is that 426,000 EB2, some of it clearly, in my opinion, just based on just simple numbers, may belong to the EB1.
Yes, well, that's that's what we're here about.
Yeah.
So I guess the point is of looking at all this data. Notably, USCIS claims it has, as of June 2023, 189,000 employment-based I-45s in hand. And that's for people who are waiting for their priority date to become current. People who haven't even gotten to file their I-45. I'm going to presume a lot of those 189,000 cases are people in the India EB2, EB3 backlog who were able to file sometime in the last couple of years and are still waiting for their date to come up to actually get a green card. So to even really kind of move, for people who haven't been able to file their I-45, who have priority dates in, late 2014, early 2015, in order for those folks to even get to file, in theory, USCIS will have to, move the Visa Bulletin slowly to get through all of those folks before even getting to those guys, And for me, big picture, if you have a priority date in 2015 or 2016, it's worth looking at EB1 because I'll put it back on the screen here. It's where's the EB1 chart right now? It's push the button, put it back on there. Here we are. This is final action dates for EB1. India is in 2017. If you have a 2015, 2016, and maybe 2017, or no matter what, honestly, where you are, it's worthy of considering EB1 because the bottom line, it's going to be faster still because not everybody's going to be able to meet the requirements. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk more towards, Sam, the substance of the EB1 categories then. So.
Just a little refresher here with the time limitation. Obviously, a complete refresher will take a couple hours. So this is just a highlight of the EB1 categories.
Put it up on the screen?
Why not?
Yeah. I didn't do a good job of positioning our text, Sam, to...
we will forgive you.
Okay. All right. So 3 EB1 categories. 1, persons of extraordinary ability. So that's somebody who has extraordinary ability in science, arts, education, business, athletics, really kind of any field you can conceive, and has been demonstrated by sustained national or international acclaim, and that your achievements have been recognized in the field through extensive documentation. You, of course, got to be coming to the United States to actually work in that field and advance it, essentially bring benefit to the United States. So the story for me for an EB1 is Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so is so great. Ignore those lower categories for them. They're doing such important things that you should just give them a green card, the fastest possible track. Here you go. So next one on the list is it is outstanding professor or researcher. Honestly, a professor or researcher who is internationally recognized as outstanding in a specific academic area to work in tenure or comparable position in research. So if you look at the requirements of this category, similar requirements to that of the EB-1A, the extraordinary ability, but requires an employer sponsor and requires you to have a little bit of working experience as a researcher. But the requirements are a little bit less. I think it's 2 criteria that have to be met in lieu of 3 of 10. And
And honestly, most researchers on any advanced level easily meet it.
Yeah.
I have found that the outstanding professor and researcher category for these researchers is not difficult to attain.
Yeah, it's if you are working in academia already, I'd say.
Or a private company that does research.
A private company that does research. People always forget about that aspect of it. Private companies that do research or are fair game. We've done plenty of them in this office in the EB. And the last one, Sam, is my favorite one, which gets cut off a little bit up here. It's multinational manager or executive. Essentially requires you your company to have employed you abroad as a manager, and now wants to employ you in the United States as a manager or executive, and that's your path to a green card. Got one on my desk right now. They're really attractive. They're a great path that sort of surprises people sometimes.
And you don't have to be on an L1A.
You do not have to be on an L1A for that, so it's worthy of considering that.
Yep.
But so let's go back, Sam, then into, I guess, the one that's kind of seemed a real surge in popularity right now, I think it seems, at least in terms of people wanting to talk to us about them, is EB-1A, extraordinary ability. So as I was kind of alluding to earlier, I said, the top 5 or 10% in your occupation, for that small percentage of people who are kind of at the top of their job. Standard is you demonstrate extraordinary ability through sustained national or international acclaim, and you don't even need a sponsor. But okay, that sounds pretty easy, Brian. I'm pretty extraordinary, I like to think. How do you prove it? Well, the devil is in the details, as always, and this is when this lovely list of criteria I'm going to put up on the screen comes up here. And I pushed the wrong button, and there we go.
And for those who read about this extraordinary ability, it is really simpler than you think. The law, it can get very technical in these areas because there is what's a sustained, what's extraordinary, and what's the top prize, and there is an evidence that the quality of the evidence.
Yeah.
That's what your lawyer does, and we will help you with that. What you need to understand is ask yourself one of these criteria that Brian's going to go. Are you going to go over these?
I'll go over them.
How about go over the top most popular 4?
Okay.
And then because a lot of the law really is beyond the scope of you understanding it to a deep level, because it can get very thick very quickly, but most cases do not need to go to that level.
Okay, maybe I'll talk to some of the ones, about some of the ones that I think are interesting, because I think they're interesting.
Sure.
So membership in associations that require outstanding achievements of their members. So I like this one because this is one where somebody can just change their life in order to meet it. The standard is, membership in organizations require outstanding achievement. But if you're already at a level of outstanding achievement in your career, and you go to one of those organizations or groups that say, if you have good credentials, we believe that you hit that level, we'll let you in. It's the sort of thing where you can meet a criteria by flipping a light switch.
Just make some effort.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of goes hand in hand with participation of judges as judges of work of others in the field. If you're getting involved in those trade, industry high-level groups, there's opportunities will arise for you to, engage in sort of peer review of work.
And all of a sudden you've met 2 criteria.
Yeah, so...
And the third one is not going to be difficult.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, maybe, let's say, original scholarly, artistic, or athletic, or business-related contributions to major significance to your field. So there are ways, there's ways to make the argument. If you have a patent to your name. For me, a patent says, great, you've done something worthy of protecting that, your employer or you is worthy of, thinks it was worthy of protecting because somebody else, we might be able to make money off it. Important things. Government thought it was important too. But there's other ways to sort of get there. I've talked to people about, like, open source software contributions. For example, if you're contributing to an open source software that is, it is popular and it's used a whole lot, you might be able to make an argument based upon that. Right. You've created a product that is renowned or useful or valuable to somebody.
And why are we thinking we should be doing it now better than, let's say, 4 years ago?
Because as you were alluding to earlier, Sam, there's a friendly administration who literally is putting out policy updates emphasizing, oh, we want STEM people, we want STEM people. A while back, it was sort of STEM favoring policy relating to O1 visas. And those who are not familiar with O1 visas, O1s are a temporary visa that shares a lot of common qualities to EB-1As. In fact, if you read the policy handbook, it says, if somebody has an O1A approved, that's a positive, factor on your EB-1A. But literally, on September 12, 2023, they updated their policy handbook to emphasize, that, hey, STEM people are eligible for these things. And
we would like them to apply.
Yeah.
We want people in STEM field to apply in EB-1.
Yeah, and kind of in the way it comes up for STEM, in the policy handbook where it comes up for STEM, I think, at least as I read these criteria for EB-1A extraordinary ability, which I still have on the screen here, I read a lot of them as being very much suited towards academics, right? But the policy says that, hey, if you demonstrate that these sort of things are not applicable to your field, which is really a lot of these, scholarly articles or judging works of others are not really appropriate for people who are actually out there in the business world. If you present comparable evidence that, my X is as good as the government's desired Y, they're willing to take those arguments. So my published internal company paperwork is very important. It's as good as a scholarly article, or my that sort of thing. Yeah.
So we're about to reach our limit on time.
Yeah.
But there's two things here I want to highlight to our listeners. First of all, what the government is telling us, Brian, the way I'm interpreting what they're telling us, is that we have 500,000 people who applied in the EB2 criteria right now, pending. We would like you to tell us why you should be ahead of this 500,000. If you believe that you belong to the next level, tell us so we can get your green card first, or otherwise you can stand in line for a long time. The government wants you to come and say, I think I qualify because. That's number one. The second thing is, if you have an EB2 case, trying an EB1 has no impact on your EB2 case whatsoever.
That's an excellent point. You have an EB2 I-140 approved. You have a pending adjustment of status, or you don't have a pending adjustment of status. You try an EB1 and it gets denied. You're still in
EB2 with absolutely no impact whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard for me to not read those policy manual updates to say we're not getting many applications for people in STEM fields. Where are STEM applications, please?
Yeah. We have 500,000 people in EB2. Of those 500,000, it's impossible there's only 20,000 in EB1. That ratio doesn't follow. Yeah. So I think people are intimidated a little bit by the EB1, or they're worried. Well, unless you try, you don't know.
Yeah. So do we touch on the EB1 B and C real quick?
Want? Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm really going to touch only upon EB1B very briefly because, as you mentioned, Sam, if you are in the right if you're a professor or a researcher, you're probably already on your way there already. But I'll put them up on the screen here for just a moment to show anybody. You guys will see that the requirements here, meeting two of these requirements. A lot of these things are very similar to the EB1A, receipt of major awards, membership in associations, published material in professional publications, judging others. Very close to EB1A, but it just has those other requirements, which I guess is their logic for knocking off one of those criteria. Yeah. Finally, EB1C. So we've talked about a lot about EB1C a whole lot in this venue, Sam, and I think generally people understand them. Similar requirements to an L1 A visa, but it's immigrant, it's permanent. And I think, worth putting on the screen is sort of my FAQs about that, which comes up. One, like you said earlier, you do not need to be on L1A status to apply. You can go from H1B to EB1C as long as you had the right work abroad when you were abroad. You must have actually been employed outside of the U.S. as a manager. A frequent, kind of call we get is, oh, hey, I'm a manager. I want a green card for managers. Again, that having worked outside of the United States for your employer as a manager is a hard and fast requirement. You cannot, escape. However, you can embrace it. And why not? Why escape it when you can embrace it? A common thing we've helped, companies and people do, done a couple in the last year or two, is, if you're an important person at a company, they want to basically help you get into the EB1 category. It's been this. It's exit the United States for a year, work as a manager abroad, come back on an L1 visa or not, and apply for an EB1C when you return to the United States. It can be done. Ask me, I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. Good insight, Brian. Thank you so much. And this part of the presentation, we turn our attention to questions.
Yeah.
Just to kind of remind people, there's no attorney-client relationship here. We try to answer the questions based on a very small piece of information that we receive from you, and we give you a general answer. Do not make a life-changing decision based on what we tell you. Consult with an attorney of your choice to make sure that you're getting a specific advice based on the specific facts of your case. And without further delay, Brian, let's
see
go.
What we got.
Yeah.
Let's make it all nice and big, so neither of us are sitting here squinting.
Sounds good, Brian. Let's go ahead and see if.
There we go. Oh, scary for a second. Sam, all our questions disappeared.
All right.
From John Wick, a
Yeah.
movie fan, apparently, or a fan of the name John Wick, or an actual person named John Wick. Hello, Brian and Sam. Thank you for all your hard work. My priority date for EB3 Other Workers Rest of World is February 2021. I am documentarily qualified since April 2023. Is there any chance, in your opinion, that you will reach February 21 in this fiscal year? So final action dates for employment-based rest of the world.
August 2020 final action date, other words, August 2020, right?
Yeah.
August 20.
Yeah,
2020,
August of 2020, yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, so John Wick, we tend to abide by what the Department of State tells us, that the dates for filing are an outlook. And what does the dates for filing say for the rest of the world, Sam?
Brian, December 15th, 2020. And other workers.
And for me, that's, a couple months off February 2021. So the only sort of hope I can have on that is what it says on the end of the Visa Bulletin here, that it says, we're keeping within our quarterly limits, maybe advancement later in the year, but it depends upon. I'll be very interested to see the January Visa Bulletin, because it will tell.
January.
So
you're looking at the next quarter Visa Bulletin.
I guess that's really the answer for John Wick here. It's if you get your if there's movement on the January Visa Bulletin in neither of these dates, you might have a chance of seeing that date become current in this fiscal year.
So that's probably the best we can do for John Wick.
Yes.
All right, sounds good. So let's talk to Carnate 1. My priority date is current. Ooh. And I have an interfiling transfer of underlying basis request to consider my pending 485 application in EB category that I am current under. Okay? So there may be a little more information.
Part two.
All right, so he continues, but I have not heard anything back on my interfiling request yet, not even an I-485J notice. What can I do to remind USCIS? Thanks. So this very general question, I like that because, he respects his own privacy, doesn't want to give too much information, and I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Obviously, it depends on how long has it been pending, because that's really the key. If it's pending for more than 5-6 months, I would be worried that the I-485J notice hasn't been received.
Not even new I-485. However, so for me, I tend to see those I-485J receipt notices when they're doing something with the case. And you're right. So I would be concerned that one hasn't been sent. The USCIS policy on where to send a TUB request has been all over the place, and I can't help but think that they are probably still an absolute mess in processing them. For me,
Yeah, he's current, so he needs to turn the heat on, Brian.
yeah, I agree. I go down memory lane and say before they had real clear TUB processes, and when people's dates would become current after being not current for a long time, we would send a letter to USCIS wherever the case is, and just a polite knock on the door saying, "Hey, current, please approve."
So how long has it been current?
It's true. Yeah.
Has there been any prior retrogression in your date that you missed out on? Will dictate how aggressive I would be.
Yeah.
Because certain cases, if they're not doing enough, I would consider delay litigation as well. So it all depends.
Yeah.
It all depends on more facts that we need that on a case-by-case basis to advise you. But I think it's probably a good overview here for our friend. All right, wonderful. So let's go and take the next one. Rahul Roy for you, Brian.
What all documents are needed for EAD and AP renewal? Can I include mine and my spouse's all together in one envelope when shipping?
In general,
Yeah.
the documents you need for EAD is an advanced parole. I'm assuming you are pending adjustment status. You have an I-45 that's pending. Is the fact that you have an I-45 pending, so a receipt notice.
Sure.
And I-140 approval, I'll throw that in there, may not be required.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
dive into the specifics of the case. And
Yeah.
It's hard to...
I mean, so generally speaking, how about this? Yes, you can include a spouse and your spouse in the same package. General best practice is to make sure that these things are pretty darn separate, so the government understands that there are.
100%. Otherwise, you'll get a denial.
Yeah.
Because if the exhibits get messed up, you're in trouble.
I'm
sorry to interrupt. And if because you're not a lawyer, I wouldn't put them in the same envelope.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I mean, as law firms, we're very succinct and specifics. It's easy for him. It's another FedEx for $10.
That's
FedEx,
very, very true.
Yeah. But go ahead.
So in terms of documents, my humble advice is to read the USCIS form instructions. They are, generally speaking, pretty good about telling you what you need. Number one thing, how about this? The number one thing that's people generally forget is to include photos. I would get a nice little RFE if you don't include those. 2 passport-style photos for each case. So
issued in the last 30 days.
Yeah.
You include the same photos you included in your adjustment status application, because you have a couple extra in the drawer that can delay your case.
Yeah.
All right. So Robbie Verma, part 1. I am on H-1B. My workplace is Atlanta. On my journey, I have to drop my dad B2 visa at Philly, Pennsylvania's brother's place. Further, after a break for a few days, we'll proceed to Atlanta. Would there be any port of entry issue since I am entering Philly instead of Atlanta? Would there be any port of entry issue for my dad visiting his son, my brother, on green card? Both of us have all documents. All right, so Brian?
Okay.
So I'm going to give the short answer, you probably give the long answer. You're detailed. No, there isn't, subject to you being able to present yourself well. Brian?
I agree. I mean, could there be port of entry issues? Yes. There are many different results at ports of entry as there are types of customs officers, and they're all kind of different. But
yeah, but I don't think there's a port of entry issue. Port of entry issue means just because, that's the way I read the question, just because I changed my, coming from one port of entry as opposed to another, it raises an issue. No, it's one big country.
Yeah, where are you going? Atlanta?
Yeah.
Where's he going? Philadelphia?
Why are you coming here first? Well, dropping my dad.
Yeah, he's old. I'm coming to work on H-1B. My brother's a green card holder.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward answers, And you could always encounter a jerk who's gonna, have a blow up over that, but you shouldn't,
Yeah.
no guarantees in life, but I think it sounds like there's a good chance.
I don't see a
reasonable
problem.
time. Yeah.
All right, Brian.
From Ravish Bharti, can GC EAD primary leave the job and start her own business? I have a short answer for this one. Yes.
Okay. I think they're asking for a little bit more than a short answer.
Sam, I'm known for long answers, and I love shirking expectations, so I'll allow you to do so.
All right. So a green card EAD, you can move to a same or similar job occupation after 180 days. And per the regulations, one of them is a self-employment. It has to be done right. You have to be on a salary by a company you own. That would be the ideal scenario. It's not the only scenario, but it's the ideal scenario. You have to be continuing to work in a job that's same or similar. And in creating a company, there's other administrative functions that I would encourage you to kind of have someone else do that for you.
Yeah.
But the answer is yes. I think this is the kind of thing you clearly need to team up with a good, experienced lawyer to help you with it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that in sentiment. If you're going to be working for a company that is yours, it should look like a company, in the eyes of the government. If, in case you're ever asked, it should walk like a dog, talk like a dog, sound like a dog,
Yep.
Yeah.
Truly right for you, Brian.
Got my green card in March 2023 through employer.
All right.
How long do I have to be with that employer? Can I move on to a new job? Can I work 1099 or for my LLC? Should the income match the dollar value on the I-140?
A lot of questions, and all of them are good questions.
Yes. How I generally answer how long do I have to be with the employer is generally a reasonable amount of time. Keep in mind, when you filed for that green card and when your employer filed for that green card on your behalf, you guys both, kind of entered into an agreement saying, I'm offering full-time employment and I'm going to take it, and it should reasonably continue for some time after you get that green card. However, circumstances can change. Circumstances can change any time. If, say, for example, on day 2 of having your green card through your employer, the employer, goes under, well, you're not obliged to stay with them anymore. There is that. Can I work on a 1099 for my LLC? Sure. Yeah, you're allowed to do that as well.
Problem.
Should the income match the dollar value on the I-140? So
No.
Nobody's realistically. It's pretty unlikely they're going to be looking at that, especially
After
on
you get your green card?
Yeah.
No. As a matter of fact, you don't even need to work in your field after you get your green card.
Yeah, I mean, but in theory, we've always had that conversation of, can they come back later and say, do you take your green card in bad faith if you didn't?
No, if he worked for the employer for a reasonable period of time.
Sure, a reasonable amount of time, yeah.
And then beyond that, he went in and he said, I want to become a painter. I'm not interested in doing IT.
I've had a change of circumstances. I leave my employer.
Sell my paintings. I'm an
Yeah,
artist.
the devil is kind of in the details there. But the bottom line is, you're not just because you take an employment-based green card, you're not tied to that employer forever. Permanent employment is not permanent forever in employment.
Yeah. Especially if you are from India and work for the employer for a long time, we have not seen any cases in which that your intention is in question.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. So from HF, use advanced parole, enter the United States this month. I have an H-1B valid until December 2024. I have an EAD or Form 765 pending for renewal, I'm assuming. There's a question. Immigration status at last arrival. Should it be H-1B or parole? What I-94 number should use on H-1B, I-94 or parole? All right, so he entered the U.S., just to simplify this, in the United States this month, and he used the advanced parole.
Yeah.
So he is a parolee.
Yeah.
You are a parolee, and typically they put a 1 year on it, which you can be in the U.S. beyond. That's not a problem. If you join the H-1B employer, you could extend your H-1B, and then upon the approval of that extension, you could get back on H-1B. So if you have an EAD for renewal, that shouldn't be a problem. If that's an extension. So I think that's probably answer most of the questions.
Well, yeah. I mean, so I-94 questions are very, very fact specific.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, in this situation, it's if you enter as a parole.
No, he's asking what I-94 should I use? The H-1B I-94 or the parole I-94? Like maybe if somebody asking what's your I-94 number, like maybe
Technically, I start thinking of last action rules, like if he traveled before and this H-1B approval was issued after he came back to the United States, things like that. Bottom line for me, it's probably the new Customs and Border Protection I-94 number, but it's the sort of thing where devil is
very fact specific.
Yeah, I-94 questions, which one's the right one, which one's the valid one, are things that can keep me up at night.
Unless you know the facts of the case.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, sounds good. I agree, Brian. All right, so we have one for you from Chandra Banu Gore.
Hi guys, do you feel the EB-1 India will reach its old final action date of February 22 by the end of this fiscal year in line with the rest of the world's EB-1 spillover happening? Your advice? I
don't think so. So based on what we see, obviously we always look at the final action date, and the final action date India is saying July 2019 for EB-1.
That's the dates for filing.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for, dates for filing.
Sorry, you said final action dates.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But the final action date will be by the end of the year. We'll reach.
That's what the thought is. I mean, this person points out, in September, this is if you want to get Brian upset, you have to bring this fact with him. On the September Visa Bulletin, February 2022 was the date for filing, or the I believe it was a date for filing on the September Visa Bulletin, and it's absolutely it makes no sense. How can it draft back, 3 years over the course of 1 month? I would say it defies logic, Sam, which is one of the many reasons I have officially given up, retired from.
Because I mean, they look at data and then they look at data again and say, oh, we forgot this,
But I just it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So for you, Chandra Banu, I would say. So one of us, when it comes to the January Visa Bulletin, one of us is going to be going, haha, to the other one here if the dates for filing start moving on the January.
But I mean, we cannot predict. But the bottom line is this: we have 10,000 EB-1 India that are pending.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
And that's a big number. So is it going to go back to February 22? Not like that. It doesn't look positive.
Yeah.
That's all we can say.
I would tend to abide by what the Visa Bulletin says for the time being.
They tell us
July 19th.
Because the way they calculate the numbers is the way they calculate the numbers. They're the one that make the numbers, and it's not always logical. Sweet Seller, our old friend.
Yes, who has a green card as evidenced by his question.
With a green card, yes. Can I work on 2 jobs? Should I take permission from both employers? Yes, no. You can definitely work on 2 jobs. You do not need to take permission from both employers. However,
I'm going to put on my employment lawyer hat for a minute here, and I would say read your employment contract with your employers. If there's a clause in there that requires you to devote your full-time good faith, etc. to it. That's where I would get concerned.
So in the U.S., we begin the analysis under common law. Common law, which is basically general law. In most states, there is no restrictions. However, every employer have an employee manual, policy manual, and a contract, and these dictate relationships. And you sign on these when you take the job, and in them there are rules and regulations that you should read.
Yeah. I have. It's been a while, touch wood, since I've gotten one, but I've been consulted a number of times on, we found out our employee is moonlighting. What can we do? Yeah.
I just got somebody was telling us, yes, as a matter of fact, over the weekend I met this company owner, and he found out that one of his employees is doing Uber deliveries. Uber Eats delivery during working hours, working remotely, and they weren't happy. So obviously it was not a highly paid job, But yeah, that can create a problem. Of course, Sweet Seller is not talking about that, of course. I'm sure it's IT and both jobs are professionals, but if both are full-time and both requires full attention, that can conflict.
Yeah, yeah. I can hear my wife's HR voice, and she's in HR, and I've heard that issue from
Screaming,
her. Yeah, as well.
Screaming at both of us right now.
Yeah. Well, no, not at all. I just thinking like, well, it's against our policy, and maybe the company won't find out, but if they do, you could have a little bit of trouble there. Yeah. So a great question coming up here from Selvakumar Ramachandran. Any idea on H-1B stamping in the United States?
Well, it's October.
Yeah.
It's October 2023, October 2nd, 2023. The promise is it will be done.
Is it this year? Is it this year?
This year in the U.S. itself.
It's part of a pilot program, and there's one guy.
So it will happen, I can tell you, it will happen within the next 2 months.
And there'll be one guy, his name will be pulled out of a hat, and they'll get out their streamers and party hats for him, and they'll stamp him in the United States. And then they'll study that action and determine how they can expand that pilot program. It might take a couple of years. I have such little faith in their ability to their desire to implement this one at this time.
Thanks for the reminding us.
Yes.
All right, so Shweta Krishnan. EB-1 for India is already backlogged now with final action date at 2017. With this presentation and potential for more EB2 switching to EB-1, will it go further back? My EB-1 priority date is July 23, waiting to file I-485. Well, number one, congratulations on your EB-1 approval, right? I'm assuming you're approved to say my EB-1 priority date is July 2023. Of course, it's going to push it.
They got approved pretty fast. Filed in July 2023.
Yeah.
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, and I would love for you guys with EB-1 to come and share details with your colleagues, because it's important to encourage others, because they will have a priority date after you, so it will not impact you. Well, unless they have a priority date before you, in which case I'm wrong, it will impact you. But yes, it will definitely. But the truth of the matter is, 400,000 EB2s right now in India, and 10,000 only EB1, these numbers don't make sense. And with the administration pushing for EB1, is telling people, you gotta move to EB1 if you are in that category. There could be people moving to EB1. Does it impact the priority date? Yes, it will. That's natural.
Yeah, I appreciate you for your estimation of our influence.
Yeah, truly.
Here, no, we get asked these questions a lot, so I'll come here and talk about them.
I mean, obviously, we do talk to a lot of people in the EB1, and we see a lot of people. Some people, we tell them, sorry, you're not qualified. Other people, they are qualified, and they should file in the EB1. That's their right. That's the law, and that's their right.
Yeah.
Yep. Venkat Abineri Madi. A friend of mine with priority date 2014, EB2 India, received an email over this past weekend as below. Application type 485, application to register permanent residence or adjustment status. Your case status.
Bing.
Initial review according to the Department of State's Visa Bulletin as of September 2023. An immigrant visa number is immediately available to you. We have resumed processing of your application.
Yeah, priority date of June 2014, EB2 India. That doesn't quite make sense. Yeah. So let's see what. Just curious if USCIS is going to process this visa given that its priority date isn't current. Have you heard of others receiving such emails? So I have not, Venkat, seen that. I get a lot of emails asking me about USCIS online tracking status messages, and I have not seen that one yet. You mentioning the Visa Bulletin for a given month, and you know darn well that that doesn't make sense because that date is not current, unless it's a situation of cross-chargeability that hasn't been told to you. What I generally say about the online, portal tracking or the USCIS website is it's like 90% accurate. and especially when it gets to a local field office, I think that it greatly increases the chances for getting wacky messages.
From the system.
I think realistically, it could be that some officer, picked up his case to, scratch their head over it and, click the wrong button.
Somebody pushed the button and said, "Oops."
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would want to add one thing. This is precisely the kind of thing that you want to talk to an attorney. You'd send the email, who's familiar with your case, look at the facts, look at your application, look at the email, and probably follow through. You don't want to ignore it. Write the letter, make a contact, because tell your friend it's serious business.
Oh yeah, it's a green card. I mean, I wouldn't sneeze at any opportunity.
Yeah, so you gotta pursue it. He has to pursue it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I skipped one, so I will. Here we are.
All right.
From Kavya Reddy, I lost my EAD,
Ouch.
which got approved recently, and my AP is pending. If I apply for replacement, will they send a duplicate copy of my EAD, or will they approve with new validity dates?
I think you have to file a lost or stolen.
Yeah, it's honest. So here's the fun fact about it, because we don't do these too often. Again, touch wood, because I don't want anybody losing their EADs. The thing is that they send those EADs to the beneficiary, the applicant, rather than to us, because we don't need them in our office. So I unfortunately don't have that information on it. Anecdotally, though, I've heard of people getting EAD replacements relatively quickly lately. So there's that. Yeah. I think we have one or two more questions here.
Sure.
Bing.
All right. Kavya Reddy. Can I send
Part of yeah.
Was there a problem? Okay.
Yeah.
Can I say I went through it again with I-765 while previous one is pending? I think he's trying to get a combo card.
Yeah.
Well, number one, I think I want to add with the 5-year I-765 approval, maybe this is a blessing in disguise that you've lost it and apply for a new one.
Yeah.
But I doubt that you will receive a combo card anyways if they're handing out 5-year EADs.
Yeah.
There's no indication, so I would not file a new advanced parole.
I don't see them any. Sam, do you see any chance of them issuing 5-year advanced paroles?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Combo.
No.
Is the combo card dead then? Is the combo card dead?
For adjustment applicants, it is dead. It's been dead.
It's they don't really come much anymore anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, did we get everybody, Brian?
Well, actually, a couple of questions have really just popped up right here, so why not?
Sure, we'll help everybody out.
Yeah.
All right, Emerald Marshall, she's given us good insight last time. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. Do you guys think the EB3 Rest of World filing date will move to July 2023 or even current? EB3 Rest of the World final action dates are 1st of December 2021, and dates for filing are 1st of February 2023. Again, I look to the the dates for filing, and dates of filing say only, dates for filing being an Outlook says 1st February 2023. Sam?
Well, first of all, I'm curious, if I remember, maybe there was a question about other workers last time.
Yeah, it was other workers, yeah.
Right? So, I don't think so. Not likely. I don't see it based on these numbers, especially other of the world. Although they're on the terms of dates for filing, Brian.
4 months off from that desired point. And to that, all this I would say is January Visa Bulletin will be interesting. Again, we expect, dull November, December Visa Bulletins, maybe a couple of days here and there. I think, it seems possible that if they don't get any, new cases that they're looking for to take up this year's allocation, they could move it a little bit, but.
Well, based on last year, there's not been much action between one quarter to the other.
Yeah.
All right, so we got one more here.
I think so, yeah.
From our friend.
Go ahead.
Akhtar Zaman. Is child age freeze on approved I-140? My priority is not current for I-45. The child age does not, in general, freezes on I-140 approval.
Yeah.
You get credit for the I-140 processing time. And then it freezes on filing the adjustment of status.
When your priority date must be current, and action must be taken towards
within 1 year.
Within 1 year. So, Child Status Protection Act questions are complex. Usually, if we're eyeballing one in this office, the result is a sort of a spreadsheet full of data about the person's I-140 and their child.
Yeah, but the general answer is no freeze on the I-140 approval. A prior date is not current, and therefore that aging out continues of the child, subject to a number of days credit based on the processing
how long
time.
your I-140 was in process.
And that's why we don't recommend premium processing in I-140 sometime, because it accelerate the aging out.
Bite you in the butt later,
Yeah. With that, we thank you guys for listening to us on the EB1 discussion, and we'll see you guys